thank you very much indeed, Tim. And can I start by paying tribute to the other three very distinguished members of the panel, and particularly Surian and Nuz and Tim for being sanctioned, and Baroness Morrissey, what may come. And I should also say that this Conservative Party Human Rights Commission is also, as an entity, on the sanctions list as well. So Tim, you're, I guess, doubly sanctioned perhaps, but in chairing this event. But it's a real privilege to be on this panel and to present the two reports that I will just briefly outline in my capacity as both Chief Executive of Hong Kong Watch and Deputy Chair of the Commission. In so doing, though, I should say, as has already been alluded to, that I hope we don't have any repetition of the last time these two organisations collaborated at a party conference, which ended infamously in a Chinese state media representative screaming abuse at me and then slapping a Hong Konger. That incident went viral and it made world headlines, which certainly helped promote the issue. And it came about a year after I had been denied entry rather publicly to Hong Kong. But I hope that tonight will be rather more peaceful. In January this year, the Conservative Party Human Rights Commission launched our new report, which is on our website. It's called The Darkness Deepens, the Crackdown on Human Rights in China 2016 to 2020. And I want to recognise the tremendous contribution to that inquiry of my friend David Burrows, who is with us this evening, former Member of Parliament, as well as Baroness Hodgson, who is not with us. That report was the result of an extensive inquiry conducted by the Commission throughout 2020, involving many hours of first-hand witness testimony, hundreds of pages of written submissions, documenting the truly appalling deterioration in human rights and intensification of repression across the board in Xi Jinping's Communist Party-run China. From the dismantling of basic freedoms in Hong Kong to atrocity crimes, genocide against the Uyghurs, from the severe persecution of Christians, Tibetans and Falun Gong practitioners, to the repression of lawyers, bloggers, citizen journalists, civil society activists, from forced organ harvesting to forced labour, to COVID cover-up and the silencing of whistleblowers. China today is facing the worst human rights crisis since the Tiananmen massacre of 1989, and in some respects, since the Cultural Revolution. This report, The Darkness Deepens, presents a comprehensive catalogue of horrors. But then just over a week ago, Hong Kong Watch launched its new report, which you have, I think, executive summaries on your seats of, and again, the full report is available on our website. ESG, China and Human Rights, why the time has come for investors to act. It's written by my two brilliant colleagues, Johnny Patterson and Sam Goodman, who did the real work. I just have the privilege of presenting it to you today, and I really pay tribute to Johnny and to Sam. Johnny's with us here. It's the result of in-depth research revealing an extraordinary situation regarding the hypocrisy of so-called ethical investment by the democratic world when it comes to China. Did you know that there is a good chance that your pension is invested in Chinese technology firms responsible for building China's surveillance state? The funds which run our pensions invest in stocks and shares around the world without any accountability, and increasingly, when it comes to China, their priorities are starkly at odds with those of the British public. I know Baroness Morrissey, and I'm really delighted that she's with us tonight. I know she will expand on this with her eminent expertise. But let me just briefly summarise some of the points that our report makes. The UK Universities Superannuation Scheme, the largest private pension scheme in the country, boasts a commitment to ethical investment. Yet its investments include a total of £940 million in Tencent, Alibaba, China Construction Bank, and China Petroleum and Chemical Corporation. Indeed, out of all its global holdings, Tencent is the second largest stock, and Alibaba the fifth. Yet Tencent is accused of providing tools of surveillance and censorship for the Chinese state. And Alibaba, alongside Hikvision, has produced facial recognition technology used by the regime to target Uyghurs, and has therefore helped to construct China's surveillance state and prison camps. The British Parliamentary Contributory Pension Fund invested £39 million in BlackRock Emerging Markets Fund in 2018 to 19. And in 2021, BlackRock invested substantial sums, almost 12% of its emerging markets fund, in Chinese companies Tencent, Alibaba, the China Construction Bank, and Sinopec. Legal & General states that it supports the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, the International Bill of Human Rights, and the International Labour Organization's core conventions. Yet Hong Kong Watch has found that until recently, L&G invested in Chinese companies linked to the People's Liberation Army and complicit in grave human rights violations, including Zhejiang Dahua Technology, which has produced facial recognition software used by the Chinese regime to identify Uyghurs. L&G also invested in 8 Chinese companies currently on the US sanctions list. They did announce that they had divested, but only once approached by the media for comment. The rise of ethical investment, or environmental, social and governance, ESG investing, is designed to give us all a reassuring sense of security that our pension money is being invested in good, sustainable equities which will generate a profit for our savings while doing a little bit of good for the world. But the growing drive to invest in China exposes the hypocrisy of many of the key industry players. While posing as a pioneer of ethical investment, Larry Fink, the chief executive of BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, is also at the vanguard of those pushing for greater access to China. Quote, "I continue to firmly believe China will be one of the biggest opportunities for BlackRock over the long term, both for asset managers and investors, despite the uncertainty and decoupling of global systems we're seeing today," he said in a March letter to shareholders. BlackRock has been at the center of lobbying for greater access to China's markets. The firm pushed for a greater allocation of the weighting of Chinese stocks in global indices controlled by MSCI, FTSE Russell and other providers. And in August this year, BlackRock recommended that investors triple their equity allocation to the country. But I've set out BlackRock's situation. BlackRock is certainly not alone. From HSBC to Vanguard, JP Morgan to Schroders, major financial institutions have been racing after greater access to China. There are a number of reasons to be concerned by this. First, little has been paid to the human rights record of the Chinese technology firms, as I've outlined earlier. Investments in Tencent and Alibaba are especially problematic because Chinese technology companies of their size cannot divorce themselves from the Chinese state, which is increasingly using surveillance technology to oppress and target particularly the Uyghurs, but not only the Uyghurs. It's being rolled out throughout the country. But it's not only human rights that should concern us. Institutional investment in China has national security implications, a topic that perhaps Sir Ian may touch on in a moment. Questions should be asked, therefore, of the safety of international institutional investment in China at a time when Xi Jinping is conducting a regulatory crackdown. The rule of law is non-existent in China. One day firms may have the support of the Chinese Communist Party, the next day they disappear. It's time, therefore, to ask our pension fund providers to stop increasing their China allocations. Let me end by saying that this must also be done in the context of a wider, comprehensive and thorough recalibration of our relationship with China. That's what the Conservative Party Human Rights Commission has called for in its report, as does Hong Kong Watch. A regime that sanctions British parliamentarians, including 3 of our panel tonight, and this commission, for speaking out for human rights, is a regime that, like its agent 3 years ago at our party conference, slaps democracy, freedom, human rights, and human dignity in the face? Are we going to continuously take those slaps and kowtow, or are we going to stand up for our values? I was hugely encouraged this afternoon to hear our new Foreign Secretary set out the theme of freedom and our values, and it's clear that there is reason for hope that our position will change in defence of our values. We should note the concluding paragraphs of the Commission's report, which paints a picture of the litany of grave human rights violations and references the judgment of the China Tribunal into forced organ harvesting, chaired by the eminent British barrister Sir Geoffrey Nice, who has the experience of prosecuting Slobodan Milosevic 2 years ago. That tribunal concluded that those interacting with the Chinese Communist Party regime should, in their own very words, remember that they are interacting with a criminal state. Sir Geoffrey is now chairing an independent tribunal into the atrocities against the Uyghurs, and it has heard shocking evidence already, and we await their judgment in December. But the free world, governments, policymakers, legislators, financiers, and investors must act together to counter the criminality, mendacity, and inhumanity of this regime that represses its own people, violates international law, and threatens our values. And we must hold it accountable. Thank you very much.